Hello and welcome to the Love Doc podcast with hosts Waldo Wachewski and Ophelia Brewski.
I want you to take a second and just picture your absolute favorite low-key local hangout. Like maybe
a dive bar or something.
Yeah, exactly. Like that dive bar with the sticky floors. Or maybe a tiny neighborhood coffee shop where the barista just, knows your order before you even park your car.
Right. Or even just a niche hobby you're obsessed with.
Exactly. Something you share with a tight-knit group. Now imagine walking into that spot tomorrow morning and the whole vibe is just completely overrun by wealthy influencers.
Oh, wow. That sounds awful.
Right. And they haven't just taken your booth. They've somehow trademarked the specific vibe of your hangout. They packaged it into this pristine brand and are now charging thousands of dollars to sell it back to you.
I mean, it literally feels like walking into an alternate reality. Like your own life has been put behind museum glass or something.
Yeah.
And the really staggering part is that this isn't some hypothetical scenario. This is the lived reality we're looking at today.
It's happening right now.
Exactly. It's grounded in this remarkably fiery piece of writing from the Love Doc. We are exploring what happens when a city's genuine, laid-back identity gets hollowed out and just converted into a luxury commodity.
Yeah, the column features a letter from a deeply frustrated reader who goes by Baffled Local.
Right, and it revolves around this central, alarming premise, this idea of a 20-year bait and switch, where modern capitalism is basically fracturing the culture of Austin, Texas.
And the tone of this letter from Baffled Local, it just hits you immediately. It is so raw, it's emotional, and they do not pull a single punch.
No, they really don't.
They dive straight into this overwhelming disgust with what they called the grift of new entrepreneurs flooding into Austin. But before they tear into the newcomers, Baffled Local plants this very specific flag for their own credibility.
Oh, the hospital thing.
Yes. They write, I am from Austin. I was born at Seton Hospital in 1991. And if you aren't familiar with Austin, dropping the name of the local hospital where you were born is like the ultimate trump card.
It's just the local passport.
Exactly. In a city where everyone seemingly just moved there 3 months ago from California or New York, stating you were born at Seton means you are the baseline. You've been there.
And that institutional memory is exactly what makes their critique so sharp. I mean, Baffled Local remembers the landscape before the gold rush.
Yeah.
They're watching this whole wave of new businesses pop up, all loudly proclaiming their dedication to, hippie values or plastering their walls with claims about being inspired by Austin's laid-back culture.
Which is just wild to see.
Right. But Baffled Local sees the underlying mechanics of this performance. They point out that these so-called edgy entrepreneurs are frequently just trust funders.
Relocating from wealthy Dallas suburbs.
Yes. They're essentially just plain dress up.
It's a highly capitalized form of cosplay, and the aesthetic of this fake authenticity is just mind-boggling when you look at the price tags.
Oh, absolutely.
Baffled Local highlights the sheer absurdity of the products being sold to capture this manufactured vibe. We are talking about people dropping thousands of dollars for basic cowboy boots.
And those boxy snap shirts.
Yeah, and chunky, cheaply made jewelry that looks like it was bought at a roadside stand, but actually costs a month's rent. It brings up the exact questions. Baffled Local is just screaming into the void, like, who are the gullible people buying these authentic Austin stories?
Right. Where do they work?
And how on earth do they get the money to pay for this fake authenticity?
The anger here is really directed at the hijack of a cultural identity. I mean, Austin's unofficial slogan has long been, keep Austin weird.
Sure, everyone knows that one.
And for decades, that weirdness was organic. It was eccentric, it was slightly broke, and just completely unbothered. But now, that weirdness is a calculated business strategy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's a massive difference between a musician wearing vintage beat-up clothes because they literally have $12 in their bank account, and a tech executive paying a designer brand $3,000 for artificially distressed garments.
That is true. But hold on, let me push back on this just a little bit.
Okay, go for it.
Because if you're listening to this, you might be thinking, isn't this just the standard cycle of gentrification? Neighborhoods get cool, property values go up, people get priced out, expensive boutiques move in.
Sure.
It happens in Brooklyn, it happens in Portland. Why is Baffled Local treating this like it's some unique crime against humanity? I mean, cities change.
That's a fair question. The physical displacement, the rising rent, and the changing storefronts, that is the standard gentrification you're talking about. But Baffled Local is describing something deeper here.
Like what?
The psychological displacement of identity theft. It is one thing to be told you can no longer afford the rent in your neighborhood. It's a completely different, much more disorienting experience to walk down your former street and see a millionaire wearing a pristine, high-end costume of the exact outfit you wore when you were struggling.
Wow.
And they pretend they invented the lifestyle. You aren't just losing your space. You're being forced to watch this interactive theme park version of your own history.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. You're watching your own struggles and your own community organically building something, only to have it ripped away and sold as a luxury good.
Exactly.
So how does the Love Doc actually respond to baffled local?
Well, the doc validates everything the local is feeling, but then zooms way out to provide a macro-level explanation. And to do this, the doc uses a fascinating, though honestly pretty grim analogy.
I love a grim analogy.
He compares the fate of Austin, Texas, to the evolution and ultimate decay of Facebook.
Wait, like early Facebook or modern Facebook?
Both, actually. The doc paints a vivid picture of the early golden age of social media, back when the platforms actually delivered on their promise.
Okay.
Imagine you joined Facebook early on, just looking to connect with real friends and build small communities around very niche interests. The Love Doc uses this hilarious example of an alpaca lovers group.
Alpaca lovers!
Yeah, an alpaca lovers group. In those early days, if you found a funny video of an alpaca and posted it in that group, the platform worked for you. Literally everyone in the group would see your post on their feed.
And they'd comment on it.
Right, they would all jump in to leave nerdy, authentic comments. It was a functioning, organic community where the platform's only job was to facilitate human connection.
So the value of the platform came entirely from the users just being themselves.
Exactly. But then, the doc contrasts that golden era with the current reality of social media. Today, if you post that exact same alpaca video in that exact same group, it is an absolute ghost town. The algorithm buries it.
It's so true.
As the doc darkly jokes, your post is probably only visible to the one dead person in the group whose family couldn't figure out how to take down their profile.
Oh man, that is bleak.
Very bleak. And it doesn't just ignore you, the platform actively taunts you. You get a pop-up with a still frame from your unseen video, aggressively urging you to pull out your credit card and pay for ads if you want to reach more people.
Right, you have to pay to talk to your own group.
And that is the exact moment the illusion shatters. You realize you are not the center of a digital community. You are the victim of a 20-year bait and switch.
Wow.
The platform used your genuine desire for connection, your funny videos, your witty comments to build its massive, invaluable user base. Once they achieved total dominance and locked you in, they flipped the script. The algorithm changed from serving the community to extracting maximum revenue from it.
They're charging you simply to participate in the space you helped build.
Exactly.
And the doc notes how incredibly naive it was for society to think these platforms would ultimately be used for anything other than extreme engagement metrics.
Yeah, it's pretty clear now.
The Love Doc points out that instead of fostering community, these platforms are now optimized for polarization, specifically mentioning things like vitriolic political posts featuring Trump as AI Jesus.
Right, that's the example he uses. The political imagery is just a symptom of the larger mechanic. The Love Doc's core argument is that capitalism, especially in its modern hyper-financialized form, it demands endless aggressive growth at the expense of the user experience.
Yeah.
The chilling conclusion the doc draws is that it's only a matter of time before this exact same mechanic breaks Austin, just like it broke our digital spaces.
Wait, I have to challenge this analogy. I see the parallel in the bait and switch, but a city is fundamentally not a digital platform.
Yeah.
Well, if a social media site changes its algorithm and starts showing me terrible ads...
Are you currently unclothed? Yeesh, that's only cool at certain resorts on the French Riviera, Hippie Hollow, and your backyard. But only if you have one of those slowly rotting wooden privacy fences your creepy neighbor likes to leer over while he's watering his rosebush. Otherwise, if you want to win friends and influence enemies, you need to get outfitted in some sick merch from the Love Doc shop at thepleasurecraft.com. Are you a hard fit? We got you, boo. Plus, there are a variety of styles and colors that can accommodate any levels of uncoolness, even yours. So make a sensible fashion decision and hightail it to the Love Doc shop at thepleasurecraft.com. Your body is counting on you.
I can just log off. I can delete the app. But if my city gets overtaken by developers, I lose my home, I lose my grocery store, I lose the physical proximity to my friends. Does comparing a massive housing crisis to an annoying timeline actually hold up?
If you look strictly at the mechanics of extraction, it holds up perfectly. In the Facebook example, the content that attracted the initial capital was the authentic interactions of the users.
Okay, I follow that.
In Austin, the content was the authentic lifestyle of the residents. The mechanism is identical. Capital identifies an organic community, uses the desirability of that community to attract a massive influx of external investors, and then alters the environment so drastically that the original creators can no longer afford to participate.
Wow.
The stakes are infinitely higher in the physical world, just like you pointed out, but the systemic blueprint of the bait and switch is exactly the same.
Okay, that clarifies it. The engine driving the destruction is identical, even if the collateral damage is physical rather than digital. So let's trace this timeline. How did this engine actually get running in Austin?
Right, so the doc traces the commercialization of the city back to what he views as the innocent days of the 1990s.
Oh, the 90s.
He remembers the 90s as this sexy or perhaps slutty time. This was an era when locals, including our baffled local letter writer, were innocently toddling around in saggy cloth diapers like a goddamned hippie kid.
That's quite an image.
Right. They were blissfully unaware of the forces gathering outside the city limits. The locals were just living their authentic, carefree lives. But outside investors were eyeing Austin with massive ambitions.
And the doc uses a really evocative analogy here, too.
He does. He compares these external financial forces to the property brothers dry humping a 3-1 tear-down bungalow with good bones.
I love that line so much because it perfectly captures the predatory nature of that gaze. When an investor looks at a quirky, affordable neighborhood, they don't see a vibrant community they want to join. They see an asset.
Exactly.
They see good bones that can be gutted, sanitized, modernized, and flipped for a massive profit. They look at a beloved dive bar and just see the footprint for a luxury condo lobby.
And that external gaze began to materialize into massive physical foot traffic right around the turn of the century. The doc points to a specific celebrity influx that acted as the cultural catalyst for the boom.
Right. People started flooding into the city.
Drawn by a very specific, intoxicating allure. They wanted to hang out and talk indie cinema with local Austin legends like directors Richard Linklater and Robert Rodriguez.
Oh, they wanted to toss back craft brews with actors who had made the city their playground. Like, the doc specifically mentions Taylor Kitsch and, as he affectionately calls him, that ginger dude who married Kirsten Dunst.
Jesse Plemons?
Yes. It created this incredibly potent mix of Hollywood glamour and Texas grit. And the doc admits something really interesting here. At first, this initial wave of attention was actually kind of adorable.
Yeah, it represents the classic first stage of cultural commodification. The original artist and the culture creators are still firmly rooted in the city, and the initial wave of tourists are mostly just eager fans.
Taking photos and stuff.
Exactly. The doc describes these well-dressed tourists taking photos in front of the famous Joe's I Love You So Much mural on South Congress Avenue.
Which is a huge cultural landmark there.
It is. Or you'd see them going out to take real cowboy two-step dancing lessons at historic local honky-tonks like the Broken Spoke or the White Horse. It felt like a harmless, almost charming appreciation of the local flavor.
The problem with the gold rush, though, is that the prospectors never stopped coming. It didn't end with a few adorable tourists taking dance lessons. They kept arriving in droves.
Hundreds of people a day.
Yeah, and they started snapping up all the cheap real estate that had allowed the artists and service workers to live there in the first place. They clogged up the roads with what the doc accurately describes as their indecisive driving.
So annoying.
And most devastatingly, they figured out ingenious ways to commoditize the very laid-back Austin mythos that drew them there. Which brings us to the ultimate tragic irony for the original locals.
The irony is profound. The deeply ingrained anti-corporate Slaggerville identity of Austin turned out to be a literal gold mine. But how do you monetize an aesthetic of not caring about money?
You can't sell the attitude itself.
Right, you sell the proximity to the attitude. You build high-priced apartment complexes overlooking the gritty music venues. You sell the feeling of being an insider. The aesthetic of slacking became incredibly lucrative for everyone except the actual slackers.
Because the people of Slackerville missed the gold rush entirely. They were busy actually living the lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly.
They were going to see live bands on a Tuesday night, getting late-night tacos from a food truck, sleeping off their hangovers the next day. They weren't looking at their own lives as a brand to be optimized and monetized.
No, they were just living.
And by the time they woke up and realized their daily existence had been packaged into an asset class by real estate developers, they were already priced out of their own zip codes.
And a cultural takeover of this magnitude eventually demands a massive physical transformation. You cannot alter the soul of a city without fundamentally altering its physical environment to house the new capital.
That makes sense.
The doc shares a deeply personal moment regarding this shift. It wasn't a gradual boiling frog realization for him. It was a sudden, visceral shock.
The doc describes walking outside one misty morning, looking up at the horizon, and realizing with total shock that Austin had an entirely new skyline. It literally wasn't the city he'd grown up in.
It just happened.
Yeah. He specifically notices the towering silhouette of the waterline, which is Texas's tallest skyscraper, suddenly dominating the sky. And the doc's reaction is just the perfect distillation of the modern local experience.
What did he say?
He goes, "Fuck me, what is that thing? Ah, man, I really need to get out more. If only it wasn't so fucking expensive."
Wow. That internal monologue encapsulates the modern reality for a long-term resident so well. You experience the shock of the new, the deep alienation from your own surroundings, and the immediate crushing realization that participating in this shiny new version of your city is financially impossible.
Yeah.
That towering skyscraper isn't a monument to local community achievement. It is a giant, glittering tombstone for the Slackerville era. It's physical proof that the old city is gone.
And that profound sense of loss leads directly to the doc's conclusion, which is just an absolute masterpiece of humorous, cynical surrender.
It really is.
After writing this entire manifesto about the destruction of the city's soul, the doc essentially throws his hands up. He realizes you cannot fight a tidal wave of new wealth. So he openly invites these newly relocated millionaires to give him a holler with the express hope that they will pick up his bar tab.
The doc asks these new millionaires to get together with him and our original letter writer, Baffled Local, so the wealthy elite can teach the townies how to make it rain hundos at Hotel Vegas.
What are they?
Yeah, Hotel Vegas being a beloved, famously gritty dive bar and staple of the East Austin live music scene. It used to be the frontier of the city's raw weirdness.
He literally says that making it rain hundreds at a dive bar would be so new Austin. It's a laugh-out-loud funny line, but it leaves this terrible metallic taste in your mouth because it's entirely true.
The fight is over.
The weirdos lost, the Property Brothers won. The best you can realistically hope for now is that the people who bought your culture and repackaged your identity will occasionally buy you a drink while they wear their $3,000 vintage cowboy boots.
This whole exploration forces us to confront a larger, somewhat depressing reality about the life cycle of cool.
Totally.
We've traced the journey of a genuine community of people who are just watching bands, eating tacos, and creating an organic, weird little world for themselves. But by simply existing and experiencing joy, they accidentally created a vibe so globally desirable that it acted as a beacon. It attracted the exact massive capitalistic forces that ultimately paved over the very community that generated the vibe in the first place.
Which brings this whole concept right to your doorstep. Have you ever been part of something like that? Think about a specific neighborhood you loved before the luxury condos moved in.
Or an early internet forum you practically lived on before it was bought out.
Exactly. Or a hidden gem of a band you followed closely before anyone else knew their name. Have you ever watched that beloved thing get discovered by the masses, systematically repackaged by corporate interests, and then sold back to you at triple the price?
I think we all have, in some way.
If you have, you know exactly what Baffled Local and the Love Doc are feeling. You have lived through the universal, soul-crushing reality of the 20-year bait and switch.
It's a phenomenon that clearly extends far beyond the city limits of Austin, Texas. It's a cycle we see constantly in art, in technology, and in urban development globally. And it leaves us grappling with a deeply unsettling realization about the nature of authenticity in a world where everything can be turned into a commodity.
Which leaves us with a final, lingering thought for you to ponder long after we wrap up today. We've just seen how Austin's authentic weirdness was the exact engine of its own undoing.
Yeah.
So the ultimate question is this. If a city's or any community's genuine laid-back nature inevitably attracts the exact kind of massive wealth that destroys that culture.
Is it ever actually possible for any desirable local culture to survive its own success?
Or is every cool place, every authentic community on Earth, destined to eventually become a highly priced, sterilized theme park version of its former self?
Thank you for listening to the Love Doc podcast.
To read the column that spawned this podcast, go to austinchronicle.com/columns/thelovedoc. There are probably worse things to do with your time, right?